What's up, you beautiful people? When should you change your running shoes? This is a really good question, and I get asked this pretty often, honestly. And I want to record a quick video on how to do this. It shouldn't take too long to cover this. If you don't know who I am, my name is Reese Jones. I'm an ultra runner. I've ran 10 marathons in 10 days, set course records at a 50-mile race and a 100-mile race. And overall, I'm just trying to help people enjoy the sport of running a little bit more while reducing the risk of injury and getting fitter faster. So let's talk about this because changing your running shoes and knowing when to change them is really important because one, we want to maximize use and we want to save money. Let's be honest, if you're getting really good shoes, they're quite pricey these days. So buying them too often, you're going to spend more than you need to. But if you're not buying them as often as you should, you're going to potentially risk injury. And I have a quick story on this. So when I was training for the St. George Marathon in 2022, I ran a sub 3 hour marathon that year. And one of the things I was dealing with leading up to the race was a metatarsal, like the bones in my feet felt really off. And I was really, really concerned because this was happening like 2, 3 weeks before the race. And I was dealing with this on my runs. And I was talking to my coach, and he was like, just buy a new pair of shoes, right? And I was like, okay, is it really that big of a deal? And I swear to God, when I started running in those new shoes, that pain was gone immediately. It didn't take time, like immediately the bottom of my foot felt better. And this was a big aha moment for me, realizing, oh, sometimes the injuries or things you're feeling just have to do with shoes, not an overuse thing, not overtraining. So let's talk about when to change shoes because I think it's very simple in my mind. So most people are going to suggest every 300 to 500 miles when you should change your shoes. And it's a good rule for a thumb, but I think there's something that's much more powerful that'll help you get on top of it faster, opposed to some like finite number. And I'm not. I mean, who wants to track how many miles they've run in their shoes? I don't. If you do, that's power to you. But what I do is I suggest when you notice a niggle, that's when you change your shoes. What's a niggle? It's defined as a slight but persistent annoying discomfort or anxiety. In this situation, it's probably not an anxiety we're referring to. A niggle is some sort of annoyance, some discomfort in some sort of area of your body. I'm going to talk about a couple different places I've noticed niggles, and then I change my shoes when I notice that. So first off, the story I just explained, the bottom of my foot was kind of sharp pain or it felt a little bruised. That would be a niggle. As soon as I changed shoes, that thing went away. So some things to pay attention to is how do the bottom of your feet feel? What about your ankles, your knees, maybe like your hip? These are things that if you notice come up that you haven't been dealing with, that's when I would change the pair of shoes and see if that helps. You don't necessarily need to throw away that old pair of shoes because if you change shoes and you're still feeling it, maybe it's not a shoe thing. But the thing that you just have to be very tuned into your body. Like you have to pay attention and check in. And I think most runners do have some sort of awareness of your body, but pay attention to like, wow, I haven't been feeling this thing in my knee for the past 3 weeks, and all of a sudden here it is. And so that might be, and then maybe you run the next day and you feel it, and you run the next day after that and you still feel it. That might be a good sign to change your shoes. If you're in routine and you're not really increasing mileage, or you're not, and like let's say you're stretching and you're doing strength training, you're doing all the right things to feel good, and you start to notice some sort of niggle, that's when I would suggest changing your shoe. Because like you could be increasing the mileage. Let's say you jump from like 70 miles to 100 miles in 1 week. Your body might feel pretty beat up because that's a pretty significant jump. So opposed to increasing slowly. So it's really hard to say, is it specifically the shoe that is causing this niggle? It might be you're too tight. It might be some sort of weakness in the muscles or tendons. But in general, I change my shoes once I notice my body start to feel off in a way that isn't normal or typical, right? So again, the knee, the bottom of the foot, maybe a hip, maybe the outside of the thigh, like the IT band. That is generally a good signifier of when to change your shoes. So here's the thing. You might get more than 300 miles out of a pair of shoes. And then there are times where I get like 200 miles out of a pair of shoes. I start to notice a niggle. I change my shoes. And then I'm, back to my best level. I feel great. So this is what I do to try and maximize getting the most use out of my shoes, while also not being robotic of every 300 miles I have to buy shoes, which can be kind of expensive. One last bonus tip I'll give you before I go that'll help with this is if you have two pairs of shoes that you rotate through. I learned this very on of if you're running in the same pair of shoes every day, the foam in your shoe usually doesn't fully reset until 24 hours. So if you run at 7 a.m. for 2 hours until 9 a.m. and then you run at 7 a.m. the next day, your foam isn't fully reset. So having, even if it's the same type of shoe, if you alternate every other day, especially if you're doing runs pretty much every day or multiple days in a row, that's going to help to maximizing your shoe and having it fully reset so you have the support you need. So hopefully that helps. If you like learning about running, hearing stories, or you just want some more tips and tricks from my perspective, definitely hit that subscribe button, because I do content pretty regularly surrounding all sorts of topics like strength training, running, flexibility, mobility, tips, racing, preparation, all of it, right? So if you like content like that, hit that subscribe button. I appreciate your time. I know it's valuable, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace.